Welcome back. In Game 1, Dignitas came out strong, led by stellar play by their jungler, I Will Dominate. Let's check out what I Will Dominate had to say about his outspoken summoner name.
My name is I Will Dominate. I'm from Team Dignitas, and I'm the jungler. I wanted people to hate losing to me, and I wanted to have like a kind of arrogant style name.
Must be very confident. I knew when I picked him up, I was like, well, he knows what he wants in the game. Like, he wants to, like, crush the other guys.
He has a catchphrase with it, too, right? If he wins something, it's like, oh, he dominated, and then it's like, oh, that's his tag.
I think he's a rock-solid jungler. I think he does exactly what he needs to do for his solo lanes, especially.
Everyone at this tournament can dominate. So when you're the guy saying that I will, a lot of people are going to want to take a shot at you.
Oh, that goes without saying. I will dominate him, but...
You never want to lose with a name like I Will Dominate. You'll just get crushed and they'll just make fun of you.
Anytime you lose with a name like that, it's not going to be optimal.
I don't know if it would necessarily paint a target on his back, but it expresses a lot of bravado. But that's what you got to have in this game. You got to say, hey, you know what? I will dominate you.
And welcome back, everybody. We're going to get to Game 2 in just a second. But, Jat, first, let's talk about what Team Dynamic is going to have to do to get back into this game, because Dignitas really had their number in that Game 1.
So last game, they tried to go with a bit of a split push strategy. They wanted a lot of just skirmish fights with the Nidalee. They got out to the early lead that they wanted, but then Dignitas turned it around on them. It'll be interesting to see here whether Team Dynamic goes again for the early mid-game strategy, or if they go for something that can match up better against Dignitas' late game, because right there, Dignitas really just stalled them out, set up counter ganks, and turned things around.
And that was what we were saying Team Dynamic would have to do, contain that Dignitas late game and prevent those carries from getting farmed. But Skara, Crumbs, and I'm a Cutie Pie did just that. Any bans you think we're going to be seeing from Team Dynamic?
There's still a potential to ban the jungle Olaf. Dignitas wouldn't have gotten in any trouble if it wasn't for Nintendo X's just great axes early game and mid game to set up that early lead. If they didn't have to deal with that, that would have been a much cleaner victory for Team Dignitas. Other than that, I think we might see a block on Skara's Karthus just because how effective he was in the teamfight phase. And really, if Team Dynamic wants to win this, they're going to have to be able to beat Dignitas in 5v5s because they appear to be just too good at forcing those engagements.
And with that late game presence, we know that Skara has multiple champions that he will be able to farm into the late game. If that Skara gets banned out, they would love to ban out Skara. Unfortunately, they can't do that. They just have to ban his champions. If they ban that Karthus out, what is Dignitas going to be going with?
He's been playing a lot of Gragas lately. Even though he hasn't seen it much lately, he used to play a lot of Mordekaiser. That's probably unlikely, but it does fit into his just farming mentality and just getting fed for the late game. Really, Skara plays a little bit of everything, so it's not really their capability to ban him out. If anything, though, he plays Karthus more than everything else. They're most likely going to force him off that.
We actually saw him play Mordekaiser in a couple of competitive tournaments. I believe it led Dignitas to the final, but then he got camped relentlessly by Moscow 5. Could Nintendo shut him down in that way?
Nintendo can probably shut him down in that way. He tried last game, but he was putting most of his attention up top. Whether or not they keep their strategy from camping top and getting Zion Spartan, and if they want to change it to camp mid and get Paradoxical going, could be something. Paradoxical's played a lot of things like Ahri, played a lot of Ryze. They might not ban out Cassiopeia again. It might be time to change that around because the Zion Spartan getting ahead actually worked for them last game. They did sort of get him going, and then Dignitas had a counter for that. Whether Dynamic wants to just keep hammering at that typical strategy, or whether they want to change something up because it's do or die for them, doing the same strategy twice in a row and then going home might be a little bit unsatisfying. They're probably going to mix it up. They might go for the Paradoxical carry, and we'll see really by Nintendo's actions early on in the game.
Well, Paradoxical does enjoy that Cassiopeia as well as that Ryze. Both champions could carry into the late game, but we saw Dignitas banning out the Cassiopeia. They didn't want anything to do with it, so maybe a Ryze for Game 2?
I wouldn't be that surprised if we saw a Ryze or maybe an Ahri, just because while Team Dynamic does want to get good teamfight presence, they're really all about just taking advantage of all the lanes. So if Zion Spartan gets fed top, it's all about drawing attention to top lane and away from their lane so they can succeed. If they're going to feed Paradoxical mid, when Ryze wins mid, he really just kind of is a just turret of damage that is there for team fights. That's not Team Dynamic's style. If they pick Ahri, then he can gank top, he can gank bottom, he can just pressure the entire map, and that's how Team Dynamic takes over games. It's not about stationary victory, it's about roaming around and applying pressure in that manner.
And also Ahri with that ultimate able to have 4 flashes essentially, and we saw that composition from Dignitas in this game 1. It really seemed to be all about speed control. They had speed ups, they had slows, and once they got one slow, they would just chain them together.
The Sona comboed with the Karthus wall and also Kog'Maw's slow were too much for Team Dynamic to handle, and you could really tell it caught them off guard. All they had for the front line was Morgana, and they actually continually interrupted his Zhonya's Hourglass. They'd catch him in a Sona ult, or they'd catch him in a Skarner suppression, and just shut him down that way. There's really a lot of ways Team Dynamic can go against that. I don't really see Dignitas having to mix too many things up, because they love playing late game. Late game worked, and Dynamic hasn't proved to them that they can beat that strategy of farming and just counter aggression that they pulled off last game.
So Jet, let's say that you're Team Dynamic's Theory Crafter. What composition do you want to run against this Dignitas lineup?
If I'm Team Dynamic right now,
Yes.
I want to make sure Zion Spartan is on something that he can team fight with. Because even though he's just a great peeler, if they get him on something like Akali instead of Nidalee, when he gets on team fights, he can jump in. He could assassinate Amacutie. He could get onto Scar and then jump out. They need to keep him going. I'd also get Paradoxical on something that can roam around very strongly. Scar is so much of a farmer in the mid lane that you need to pressure other areas of the map. For Nintendo X, I just go for the Olaf first and foremost. That is what he is best on. That is what you want him roaming around with. He knows how to play that. They just need to make sure they build their items properly. Last time he didn't get armor in time and got completely shredded by Kog'Maw. If he just builds more properly, they would have a much better chance.
We'll have to see if Team Dynamic is going to be able to pull out that kind of team composition, that mobility and that global pressure. We keep talking about Skarner farming. We're like broken records to a degree. However, Skarner really is all about the farm. Do you feel that could hurt him sometimes in this mid lane matchup?
So teams that have typically beaten Dignitas in the past, like TSM for instance, have done it by camping Skarner and punishing him for trying to get those last hits. They've played Maokai against him in the past. Whether they can dive in on that, Olaf can also put a lot of attention into mid lane like we've seen. And here we go, actually. The picks and bans are underway. Champion select for this game 2. Let's see what strategies they end up going for.
We'll have to see if they were listening for that banter between the game 1 and the game 2. There's the Cassiopeia ban from Dignitas. They don't want to see it in that mid lane. Team Dynamic does not want to see I Will Dominate on Skarner again. He was devastating, canceling those para ultimates for the Morgana. Dignitas banning out Rumble.
They must see a lot of value in Rumble because that is just blocking it essentially from being first pickable. They really picked it first last game. They've actually had a bit of a history of picking it very early on, at least from MOG. And there is a lot of power there that Dignitas sees in him. And that must have been a bit of a counter pick to Zion Spartan last game. Zion Spartan's Rumble is fairly fearful as well. And they get the Gragas. That's a nice roaming mid for Paradoxical if he gets going.
Paradoxical grabbing Gragas. He has had a lot of success recently on that Gragas. That exploding cask ultimate able to blow Team Dignitas in so many different directions, and Team Dynamic will be able to pick up the pieces. I'm curious about that Rumble ban because you said you would want to get someone, get Zion Spartan on someone who can team fight, and Rumble is someone that he can team fight really well with. Dignitas sitting on Nunu. Nunu could go support in jungle. We've seen a ton of jungle Nunu lately.
It could very well be Dignitas not letting Zion Spartan get on something he can farm with, which could just be a bit of counterplay, and we get Jax coming in from Crumb. So that top lane matchup, if you want to talk about late game, if you want to talk about hyper carries, there's your top lane hyper carry, and this is all about how Dignitas picks. They go for the late game. They're comfortable stalling. They're comfortable sitting back and countering Team Dynamic's aggression. Interesting first pick because that does leave them open to counters.
So what is the strong counter pick to this Jax?
So they've already banned out Malphite, which is attack speed slows. Jax needs his attack speed. It's all about proccing his passive, his alt passive through 3 hits. It's all about ramping threat. The fact that they picked Nunu, which is one of the main shutdowns for Jax, and that Malphite has been banned out, the top lane counters to Jax are actually fairly limited. At this point, they need to just worry about harassing him down or being able to burst him out, but without the attack speed slows, in teamfights, they probably need something like Ezreal, which should be very interesting for Zig since he's played now 16 games in a row of Corki. That Essence Flux attack speed slow is incredibly crucial in teamfights. They haven't locked it down. Whether Dignitas decides to pick that away from them or whether they let Team Dynamic go through, content that they're picking Corki, will be very interesting.
What Team Dynamic has locked down is that jungle Olaf. Once again, Nintendo, despite that game 1 loss, was strong in the early game, and he was very rarely missing an axe. And Pixel insta-locked Blitzcrank. Dignitas responding with the Kog'Maw again, and we're going to see a jungle Udyr. Jat, you know a thing or two about Udyr.
I will dominate, trying to show his stripes on Udyr here. Lots of early farming coming out from him. He's going to try to match I Will Dominate's speed in the jungle and power early in duels. Team Dynamic just messing around, trying to throw people off. I wouldn't be surprised if he picks Corki because of his comfort level, but it would absolutely suggest Ezreal to them if they were thinking super strategically. It's all about his comfort level. If he's comfortable on Corki and nothing else, that's the pick. But actually, he ends up going with Graves. So completely invalidating everything I just said there, and we'll see how they end up going into this final pack.
Well, Zig has mentioned several times that he is confident on so many different champions. He just really loves to play Corki. Graves is no slouch, though, and against a Kog'Maw, that burst could seriously come in handy. Skara actually picking up the Ryze. We were saying maybe we'll see a Ryze, but with the Gragas pick, Skara says, I will grab that other late game terror known as Ryze. And with these team compositions locked down, how is Dynamic looking to set up this game too?
So once again, Team Dynamic, while picking a slightly better teamfight composition, still gets outclassed late game by Team Dignitas. So it's still going to be about them forcing. They just seem a lot more capable of it right now. The Blitzcrank pick is going to be able to force a lot of pulls. If he can pull in Skara, it'll be fantastic. If Gragas roams around with Paradoxical, those explosive casks in the bottom lane can be absolutely devastating, especially on something like Kog'Maw, who's not necessarily as mobile and able to dash out of his skill shots. So it's really about Team Dynamic, slightly better team fighting, more capitalization of mid-game advantages, and it's really about stopping Dignitas from stalling and being able to get their aggression through.
We are into this game 2. For those of you in the audience, if you think Dynamic is going to be able to make it to this game 3, let me hear you.
Now, for those of you in the audience, if you think Dignitas can win again and close out for a spot in the semifinals, did you say Dignitas last time? I don't think so. Let me hear it for Dignitas.
And we are into game 2 underway. Team Dynamic versus Team Dignitas for a place in the semifinals. If Dignitas is able to win this one, Dignitas, the number 3 seed, facing off against Team Dynamic, the youngest professional League of Legends team and the number 6 seed.
Here we have pings going down. They're running directly towards each other. No wards are down yet. Blitzcrank could very well land a pull if they get a slight bit of vision.
And there's the initial engage, the ignited, wow, the explosive first blood from Crumbs, taking out Nintendo almost immediately, and a lot of action. Zion being forced to flash out, and right away, the insta-burst from Crumbs being able to pick that first blood up.
The face check there into the brush. 5 members waiting. They had no scouting vision. They did nothing to prep themselves for that fight, and he was so far ahead of the rest of Team Dynamic that there was just no ability for them to retaliate. Dignitas beat him to the spot. They got to that brush before Team Dynamic did, and they rewarded with first blood onto Crumbs' Jax, which is trouble for Zion Spartan. Last game, this was flipped around. Zion Spartan had a kill advantage onto Crumbs, was able to capitalize on it slightly, but with how strong Crumbs can be late game and how much advantage you gain from getting that first blood, that's already a tough road to climb for Team Dynamic in this game.
Crumbs has backed off and grabbed a cloth armor and a ward, so he is not only going to be harder to kill, he's going to be harder to gank, and another potion to seal the deal with that first blood gold. So that top lane is going to be a little rough for Zion Spartan on Irelia.
Almost no way he can successfully trade against Jax at this point. That armor combined with the added matched mobility with both of them having boots is just going to make that a struggle for him. Nintendo Dex is going to, at some point, have to somewhat camp that lane if he wants to have any good, because I Will Dominate. Everyone on Dignitas actually will be slightly ahead thanks to that assist gold they got from First Blood.
taking a closer look at this jungle matchup as we see Nintendo taking out this blue buff. Udyr is really a flexible jungler. How is he going to face off against this Olaf?
It's about just going wherever he wants, because Udyr can do that. Once he gets the blue buff, he keeps his health high, he clears the jungle fast, swapping between turtle stance and phoenix stance, really just clears jungle as fast as he wants. And he's rushing a level 3 here, actually. He's saved his smite from the blue buff. He's going to get level 3 very quickly. There's no ward top lane for Zion Spartan. He could very well just run up there really quick and try to get Crumbs an even bigger advantage, much like we saw Nintendo X do last game when they had the first blood top.
For Team Dynamic, the plan was to get Zion Spartan going. Hara jumping in onto Skara, getting him down to 50%, so already the explosive burst. And top lane, Dominate going up top, trying to make something happen, but he's just going to back off and roam towards that mid. But that burst from Gragas cannot be understated.
Doing his best right now to get around. He gets behind Paradoxical. This could be trouble.
Flash
away.
Yeah, Pear's going to flash in, Nintendo's going to turn around. He does get an axe down. I Will Dominate, however, is out of mana, but with that blue buff, he will get that back in a hurry, as well as the increased cooldown reduction. Dominate sitting around the Wraith entrance, trying to go for an invade, but no dice. Zig and Pixel, Pixel just missing the grab. Patoy turning it around, getting the slow onto Pixel. Zig and Pixel already trying to be aggressive for this Cutie Pie Patoy combo.
They need to jump on top of Dignitas here. They're already getting set back a little bit. It's the trouble of their predicament right now, because they know Dignitas has a better late game team. They know that they have to jump on them early, but when Dignitas gets the early advantage, they're stronger than Team Dynamic right now, so they actually have to play a bit of conservative comeback before they're allowed to make aggressive plays. So really, they have to proceed with a lot of caution here and play exceptionally well if they want to pull off their strategy.
So getting a couple chunks down.
Dominate in mid.
And Dominate being aggressive, Nintendo dropping the Ignite down, but Dominate's going to be able to walk out of their top lane. Crumbs is already taking full advantage of that first blood. 22 to Irelia's 18. Irelia trying to jump onto him, but Crumbs is just pushing this lane all day long. That ward is helping him be that extra aggressive.
You can actually see Crumbs not getting harassed whatsoever. He's sitting on those 4 health potions. Zion Spartan not really trying that hard to counter with any damage, because he knows he's not going to be able to outtrade him. He's just trying to keep up with his minion kills. It's going to be a tall task, seeing as he has that big early game first blood disadvantage.
Some aggression bottom lane. Flash going out from Cutie Pie. Cutie Pie tries to turn it around. He is extremely low. Exhaust going down onto Zig. Pixel's got about 200 health left. Zig is extremely low as well. Flash going out from Pixel. Cutie Pie and Patoy are trying to turn this around. They very well could if they get the snowball. Pixel actually sitting there, not backing completely. And Patoy potentially could have picked up that kill if he had gotten one last snowball.
Unfortunately for him, he was out of mana. Nintendo X walking through a ward, gonna force Dignitas back here. A lot of flashes getting burned there. Patoy really the only one. Patoy and Zig still having it. 2 flashes burned in that exchange. Really aggressive play by Team Dynamic in the bottom lane. That's why they picked Blitzcrank. Just hasn't been able to convert into any kills. Once again, Dignitas doing a good job at just bouncing back Team Dynamic's aggression at them. And there could very well be the first tower dive of the game coming up top with Will Dominate.
Here's the tower dive. Dominate is there. There's the flash in. The stun, and Zion is getting nuked. There he goes. Dominate picking up the kill. Crumbs is ignited, but they're going to walk out with a sliver of health. Well played by Team Dignitas. Great tower dive.
Good tower dancing by them. Will Dominate took on the tower aggro right away, and it didn't actually switch off to Crumbs because he took just as many hits as Crumbs was finishing him off. And then when Zion Spartan finally died, it was when the aggro was already cleared away. So despite them being low health, they were able to bounce the tower aggro between them and the minions and not let it take them out. Strong, successful tower dive. This is, once again, really tough for Team Dynamic. They're in a really bad spot right now.
And with that play, Crumbs is going to get farther and farther ahead. He has that assist. He already picked up a Ninja Tabi, the longsword, and the Ruby Crystal, so looks to be a phage in his future. So going to be some trouble. Zion Spartan grabbing a Dorn shield on his back. He wants to be defensive in this lane. He is starting to fall behind as well. 35 mini kills for Crumbs to Zion Spartan's 26. Couple of pings going down for retreat from Dignitas. They saw Nintendo. Smart warding from Patoy to make sure that Nintendo doesn't get those early ganks.
Even just his presence down there has forced the aggression a little bit back from Dignitas. They've turned this lane around onto Zig a little bit. Normally, Nunu Kog'Maw does take to around level 7 or so to really ramp up, but Patoy and Cutie Pie have done it already. They're going hit for hit with Zig and Pixel. doing a good job not getting pulled out of positioning. Blitz down by them, so it's just a good job by Dignitas' bot lane. Really everyone doing quite well for them so far.
And with that kill, speaking of doing quite well, I Will Dominate was able to pick up an Oracle's Elixir, so he is ward clean right now, but he gets caught by Nintendo. There's the true damage, and there's the barrel from Pero, the belly flop dominating in a 2v1 situation. Skar's going to try and go in to help, but no, Pero's going to pick him up with the Ignite. So Team Dynamic staying in this match.
Whew, they really needed that. Getting the early Oracles and getting it off of I Will Dominate so early is actually going to be a very big swing. He has to delay getting his other gold generation items or really finishing his tanky Udyr build to get that early Oracles. And the fact that he was not able to clear out many wards with it is great for Team Dynamic. Not only did they get the kill gold out of it, they also denied that Oracle. So that kill pretty much worth double for them.
Para picking up that blue buff, looking a little bit closer at this mid lane. As top lane pushes down, Zig is extremely low. QtPie and Patoy are not listening to what should be happening. What is happening is they are so aggressive in this bottom lane.
At this point, Nunu Kog'Maw is going to be a struggle for the rest of the match for Team Dynamic. QtPie is not going to be getting any weaker as he ramps up. Nunu also one of the best things for protecting Kog'Maw. That Absolute Zero puts down so much zone control. Really, Dynamic's going to have to burst him down in teamfights just because of how much ramping damage he's going to provide in teamfights.
Chad, it really seems like that bottom lane has been in favor of Dignitas regardless of the matchup.
They're playing exceptionally well together, actually. That roster change a little while ago when they picked up Patoy seems to be working really well. Nintendo Dex, however, landing that axe down onto QtPie, they might force him to flash away.
Ping's going down mid lane. There is an engaged bottom lane. Nintendo is there. QtPie is low. Oh, the flash out from QtPie, able to dodge the hook from Pixel. Aggressive play from Team Dynamic. Unfortunately, not able to convert it. And the push down from Para. He's trying to chunk Scar out. Scar just burned his ultimate to continue to bring the pain in the mid lane. But with that passive, Gragas is just able to heal it all back in a couple of spells.
And in bottom lane, actually, Team Dynamic trying to take some initiative. They're tired with how this lane's going. They know they're losing it to Patoy and QtPie, so they're going to take down this tower and start roaming around and forcing some mid-game teamfights. This is what they need to do. This was their game plan. They're not as far ahead as they wanted to be at this point. They're actually slightly behind. Whether or not this works is going to be tough for them.
Dignitas had a fairly strong lead, but with that
potentially another
tower dive, here comes another tower dive. Zion jumping onto Dominic to try and get out of there. He is ignited. Crumbs is going to go for the full-on dive. He's ignited as well. Will he be able to get out of there? He will, but Para is there, and Crumbs just gets nuked by that ultimate. Para trying to get the belly flop onto Dominate. There's the belly flop and the slow. A couple more barrels could do it. Will Dominate be able to get back under his tower? He will, but not before Para putting some serious pain down. That Gragas barrel is explosive, literally, and in terms of the damage.
A little bit of Dignitas' own medicine getting paid back by Team Dynamic. The tower dive getting turned around on them. They did get the kill, but giving Paradoxical those 2 kills, he's going to now be the roaming monster for them, trying to create action. Once Gragas gets a little bit fed, that's what they need to take out QtPie in teamfights. That's what they need to slow the attack speed on Jax. That Q from Gragas can shut down Jax in teamfights. We have a replay of that last fight. Actually, we do not, unfortunately. There's roaming around by Team Dynamic. Very aggressive, trying on this fast push draws.
4 members of Team Dynamic in the mid lane. They want to push objectives and put as much pressure on Dignitas. This is the style that we've seen from Team Dynamic. Push, 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 put the pressure on, force the fight, and Para getting that roam. We said he needed a roaming mid, and he was able to convert, dropping the barrel on Crumbs' head and taking him out, and they've tied it up. Dignitas was ahead about 1,000 gold at one point in this game too. TD making sure that they don't get too far behind.
We could very well see the first team fight here. Dignitas wants this to happen. They're pushing on the Dragon. If Dynamic just decides to initiate them, it could be trouble. We shall see. The Dragon's getting all the fights on.
The ultimate and the Ignite going down onto Nintendo. There's Crumbs trying to zone out Para, and the rest of Dignitas following suit, but Irelia is here. Patoy extremely low. There's the collateral damage onto Team Dignitas, and Team Dynamics is just going to be pushed out, and top lane Flash Crumbs is trying to take one member out, but the hook from Pixel, will he be able to take him out? QtPie with a sliver of health. The Ignite take will not take him out. Crumbs being forced out of that fight, and overall, a lot of skills being put out, but no deaths.
That fight's still very good for Team Dynamic. They did steal the Dragon. Nintendo Dix ran in there and got the Smite steal onto I Will Dominate, beating him there. And the overall flow of that fight was very much in favor of Team Dynamic. Dignitas a lot lower after that. great sign for them if they want to keep forcing these things. The global gold actually stacking up. 2 towers they're pushing onto the third and the dragon, giving them a bit of a mid-game lead like they need.
They have 2,000 gold advantage to this point. Crumbs getting the stun down onto Zion, but an axe from Nintendo is going to dissuade. I will dominate Crumbs and Cutie Pie. They're just going to push Team Dynamic off of this tower, and with the pings going down, they are looking to push down this Team Dynamic mid lane.
Back and forth, here it comes. Dignitas now swinging their aggression in. All 5 members have rezzed up. They're at full health. This Team Dynamic that's trying to go back to base. Ult from Kog'Maw coming down and trying to harass it. And Dignitas trying to take towers for themselves.
Dignitas not caring about that. There is Crumbs jumping onto one of his teammates to get out of there. Dignitas just pressing, taking a ton of damage. Irelia burning her ult to finally push them off of their Zig in the top lane, farming, trying to get some form of lead. He is dead even with Kog'Maw, and as a Graves, he really wanted to be ahead in that early game.
This has actually been a remarkable recovery for Team Dynamic. Normally when you give up that first blood, especially to something like Jax, the whole game can just fall down on you. Let's take another look at that great Dragon Steal by Nintendo Dex and a bit of the ensuing fight. Here we see all of Dignitas is just poking around at Dragon. They're trying to get the Blitz, so he pops his ult and just runs in for the smite. There's no way they can CC him. They try to use the Ryze route, but he just runs on out. Then they poke in with a lot of those barrels, slowing the attack speed, and that was a lot of damage that went on to Team Dignitas. They had to just disengage at that point.
Zion doing a great job of singling Crumbs out and preventing him from steamrolling through enemy teams, as Jaxes are known to do. Skarner picking up the blue buff, and the game's settling down a little bit after a flurry of action. Dragon's going to be up not for a while. Crumbs pushing down that top lane, and just as I say that, Para is there roaming, but there are multiple members of Dignitas, so this could be trouble for Para. He sees that, and he is going to back off as Zion Spartan and Pixel push this bottom lane up.
And I just want to get into a little bit some of the reasons why Dignitas has such a ticking time bomb of damage here. Jax, as we see a huge tower dive onto Zig, going down, he gets the stun, taking tower hits, and that is a powerful Jax, crushing him down at that tower.
Crumbs 3-1-1, he's got the Phage. He's burning his Ghost to get out of there. He knows Nintendo is beelining to try and take him out. Nintendo, unfortunately, too late. And at the beginning of that exchange chat, we saw Zig burn his collateral damage.
He was just trying to get as much damage onto Crumbs and dissuade that tower dive, but Crumbs was not having it. He knew he could just jump right in, as he did with that Ninja Tabi, the armor to reduce the tower shots, just shutting him down. That is a sign of strength from Dignitas.
And that is a scary, scary Jax as he picks up his Zeal. So chasing people down is certainly not going to be a problem if he gets that Phage proc 25% chance and the extra movement speed boost.
So one thing about Dignitas' team composition here, as I was getting into before that great tower dive by Crumbs, is both of their solo lanes, Jax and Ryze, not only do they have really high ramping damage throughout teamfights, they're both actually very resilient, tanky, and hard to kill. They can both get a lot of defensive stats. Jax gets it through his ultimate. He gets resistances based on how much attack damage and ability power he has. And Ryze gets damage out of mana, which allows him to build a lot of defensive itemization. Rod of Ages, Frozen Heart, things like Glacial Shroud, not hard for him to build. So really, the two damage dealers, aside from Kog'Maw, are really hard to kill. Everyone's really hard to kill on Dignitas unless they get through to I'm a Cutie Pie. It just makes fighting extremely hard for Team Dynamic if this game stretches.
You could even call this composition a hybrid Protect the Cog composition, because if Cutie Pie is left alone, he's going to steamroll through Team Dynamic. But if they try to focus on Cutie Pie, Crumbs will do it, or Scar will do it. There are so many different ways that Dignitas can fight, and all three of the carries could potentially kill
They protect
all members of Team Dynamic
Kog'Maw
themselves
by creating other threat. So they want to kill Jax, they want to kill Ryze, but they have to kill Kog'Maw. There's just too much for them to focus in team fights, and that's another way you can fit Kog'Maw into composition so expertly.
Dignitas spreading out a little bit, taking care of their own jungle. Team Dynamic as well, Zig and Pixel roaming as a unit. Pixel has landed a couple of grabs, but it doesn't seem like Team Dynamic has been able to convert anything off of those grabs.
Not really here. However, they're continuing the fast push. They know they need to accelerate this game. Dignitas knows that if they hold them off, they'll be victorious. So really, it's all about just farming up, and that's upon the Crumbs. Not much doing, though, because he is such a beefy Jax right now. And here they come on. We might see a tower dive.
Nintendo is there. The flash going out from Patoy. He is ignited, but Dignitas just going to back off once again.
Gragas. Bottom lane.
But bottom lane, Gragas is in a one-on-one with Cutie Pie, and he just nuked him. Once again, that Gragas burst paying dividends for Paradoxical. That could be the game changer for Team Dynamic if he gets large, and he is 3-0.
That's just the second time we've seen a solo laner obliterate an enemy AD carry. However, Dignitas planning an attack here. Crumb's waiting in that top rush. We could very well see a team fight break out right here.
This is a 1v2, quickly becoming a 4v3. Crumbs is there as well. He popped his ultimate. He gets the stun onto Pixel. Pixel getting chunked down. He does get ignited. Will he get dead? He will. Crumbs will drop him. That catch from Team Dignitas. They have been doing this in Game 1, and they're doing it again in Game 2.
Right now, it's almost like Gragas against Jax. Both of the solo lanes top for Dignitas and mid lane for mid lane for Team Dynamic. Both with 3 more kills than they have deaths. 4-1 on Crumbs, 3-0 on Paradoxical. And it's a matter of where these guys go, where the Gragas and Jax go, where action's really going to happen. They have so much of the team's gold and so much of the team's farm. They need to execute in team fights if they want to win them.
Zion trying to farm himself Irelia, a real terror if she gets farmed, but she's only at 92 minion kills. Crumbs is only at 109 minion kills, but with those 4 kills, doing well.
Now we see the Dragon is back up. The last time this was engaged upon, Nintendo Dex was able to run in and steal it. Dignitas wanted to force the fight. Let's see if after the result of those close team fights and the fact that Team Dynamic has this mid-game power spike, whether or not they go straight onto it. Zion Spartan did go back to base. If Dignitas bursts it down right now, they would be able to pick up the Dragon uncontested.
Dignitas has 4 members of their team. Crumbs trying to zone out Nintendo and Pixel. Could we see another steal from Nintendo? Pixel is there to try and pick out a member. No, Dignitas is going to take it out. No problem, uncontested.
Unfortunate timing for Team Dynamic. They did not manage their mana and health very well for the timer on that Dragon. They had to go back to base to replenish their resources. Team Dignitas had it timed properly, so they had the 5 members there, and that was really just a strategically won Dragon for Team Dynamic. They had the people there, so they got it.
With that Dragon, they are continuing to work their way back into this Game 2. Dignitas is behind, but you wouldn't know it by the way they've been fighting lately. One good engage could turn this game around in their favor.
This is the point where Team Dynamic needs to take control. They push down 3 towers, Dignitas has taken none. Dignitas is just waiting. They're waiting for their moment of explosion. They want Kog'Maw to get fed. They want Ryze to get fed. They need to withstand this assault by Team Dynamic. So far, they've done a fairly good job of doing it. It's going to be about whether Team Dynamic can take the map control of having these 4 towers and make something happen out of it. Maybe a Baron Force, maybe some type of team fight. But if they don't, if Team Dignitas can win a fight hands down, if they can start taking back the towers, that's when Dignitas will win.
As we approach the 20-minute mark, Dignitas still behind almost 2,000 gold. They're pushing down. They've been successful in those engages. Team Dynamic was posturing around Baron for a little bit, but they seem content to farm out their jungle. Dignitas, on the other hand, as 5, want to take out this mid tower.
The only way that Team Dynamic can shut down Jax in team fights is pretty much with Gragas' damage. The barrel roll can slow his attack speed, which can shut down his ramping threat, and Crumbs has yet to build any magic resist. He's going to be trying to rely on his ultimate. So if Paradoxical lands enough magic damage onto Crumbs, they could very well walk out on top of one of these mid-game team fights. Crumbs, with the majority of their farm, vulnerable to Paradoxical, who has the majority of Team Dynamic's farm. It's going to be very interesting when the next team fight breaks out.
Crumbs has finished his Triforce, but if he's able to finish off that Guardian Angel that we have seen so often accompany a Jax and a Triforce, that burst may not be enough. Patoy able to pick up an Oracle's Elixir, so Dignitas could very well be setting up for a Baron soon.
Very interesting the fact that Dignitas are the ones trying to get the Oracles out because they have almost no map control at this point, losing so many towers. It's really about Olaf's Oracle's Elixir and Team Dynamic's ability to force around a Baron because the initiative's on them. They're the ones that have a 4-to-1 tower advantage. They're the ones that need to press at this point in the game. If they don't force Baron, and if they don't corral Dignitas and stop them from farming, they're going to lose the game. So it's really on Dignitas to just continue farming.
Team Dynamic continuing to push. They want to pressure out this mid lane. A couple of pings going down around the Baron pit. Perhaps the knowledge that a ward is there. But looking at Paradoxical, who would have to be the playmaker in this Team Dynamic fight, he has the needlessly large rod. He also has the Abyssal Scepter. And But Zig, 152 minion kills. He has the Bloodthirster, which we've seen a lot as a first item for Graves as opposed to the Infinity Edge, as well as the Zeal. PewDiePie, on the other hand, doesn't have a full item yet.
Zig actually taking his time getting into this game. He's walked around, taking his red buff. They're really somewhat slow pushing this. They do need to pick up the pace a bit. They have the big item advantage over PewDiePie here, and if they force something here, they could very well come out on top. Let's see if they get a pull.
They will grab PewDiePie. PewDiePie getting ignited. He goes through all the collateral damage going down, and Para's gonna nuke him. He's on a rampage. From going in, he does have that ultimate proc, but there is the Patoy, Slow, and Dignitas quickly taking control of this fight. The exhaust going down onto Zig. 3 members of Dignitas push him down, and Para gets taken out by Udyr. That is a double kill for I Will Dominate, doing some serious work in that fight, but this fight is not over yet. Skarner flashing in. He gets the flash, he gets the snare, but he gets killed by Zig. But Crumbs is there to avenge him. Takes out Zig. Will he take out Nintendo? No! Nintendo's gonna shut him down, and he will finally get the double kill. So all in all, a 3-for-4 exchange in favor of Dignitas, but what a pull by Pixel at the beginning of that fight.
That was a great pull by them, but that shows the versatility of Dignitas' composition. They focused everything on PewDiePie, and they got him, but they didn't deal with the ramping threat of Jax. They've used all their burst on Kog'Maw. Let's watch that fight once again. Here we see the amazing pull coming in right away. He flashed over the wall. They finish him off with an explosive cask. But watch Crumbs in this fight. He's just sitting there, auto-attacking over and over again, hopping around to creeps. They're not finishing him. They've now lost the majority of their threat here. They're chasing members down. He's able to jump on, finish off Paradoxical. Then he's looping all the way around. Skara actually flashes over wall. It costs him his life, but it allows Crumbs to catch up. They get the snowball down onto Pixel, and here we just have some extremely close exchanges. The red buff actually finishing off Nintendo X after he takes down Jax.
Unbelievable play from Dignitas to try and turn that fight around. But Team Dynamic, ward clearing out, Pixel using that ultimate to make sure that he doesn't aggro Baron. Nintendo picking up the oracles for this. We had talked about different members of different teams picking up oracles depending upon when those members go down.
It's really about conserving their gold. The interesting thing here is that's the second oracles in a row Nintendo Dex has had to purchase. So his tank ability, his ability to jump in and zone out PewDiePie will continually go down the more money he has to dump into Oracle's elixirs. I'd expect the next one to be picked up by Pixel, if anything. Otherwise, Nintendo Dex will lose all of his threat. They're poking around a lot here. Team Dynamic knows they have to team fight again. This Baron buff's coming up really soon. Both objectives are up here. There's actually Dragon and Baron, and instead, Dignitas is the one that's forcing. They're running up mid lane, pressuring Team Dynamic and trying to force them into doing something.
Team Dynamic a little bit out of position. Dignitas in a tight formation. We could see an engage. There's the explosive cast, knocking Dominate, Crumbs, and PewDiePie out of the fight. Skara using his ultimate, Crumbs going in, getting the stun onto Pixel, but it looks like both teams are just going to disengage from this one. Dominate picking up the Wraiths. And Dignitas is going to rotate. We see Pink going down for Dragon. So Dignitas is going to continue their control of Dragon. It's going to be another Dragon for them. TD did get that steal, but Dignitas has been spot on with their timers.
Also, Pixel was just a little bit too low. Dignitas did not lose much in any of those trades, and they were just the stronger, cohesive unit there. There's so much tank going on from Dignitas right here. Udyr has a Shirelia's Reverie, Aegis, and a Mercury Treads. That is a full tank I Will Dominate. There's a Glacial Shroud and a Negatron Cloak on Skar's Ryze. Jax is just innately hard to kill with that Trinity Force and Hex Drinker. He's built a bit of magic resist. He gets so many additional resistances from popping his ultimate. There's just way too much for Team Dynamic to take down in these team fights. The only area of effect damage they have comes out of Gragas' and Graves' kits. So really, it's very tough for them to just get enough damage out for all of Dignitas' weakness, really.
Paradoxical has picked up that Rabadon's Death Cap, and he still has that Abyssal Scepter, so he is able to reduce the magic resistance of Team Dignitas quite a bit, but until he gets that Void Staff, that Explosive Cast is not going to be hitting as hard. We saw that hit 3 members of Team Dignitas, and it didn't quite have the wow factor that it normally does. Team Dynamics settling around this Baron. Pixel going for a blind grab to see if he'll be able to get him, and Dignitas just burning wards down to make sure that they continue to have sight on Baron. Pixel, unfortunately, accidentally aggroing Baron as they went out of that pit.
So a lot of the diving back and forth on this fight is going to be about Crumbs and I Will Dominate diving into Team Dynamics' damage dealers. And then Nintendo Dex and Zion Spartan diving in. And actually, Crumbs jumps in for a big fight.
Crumbs getting the stun onto Pixel. Pixel getting ignited. Nintendo diving in onto Crumbs, trying to take him out. He does get exhausted,
and Para's out of the fight with a sliver of health, and Skarner's going to take him out with that last tick. Zion gets taken out by Crumbs, the snare and the double kill for Crumbs. He is a beast on this, Jax, and as a result, Dignitas is going to pick up this first Baron of game 2.
5 members on Baron. Nintendo deck still has his Ghost and Smite. He might try to steal, but Dignitas is going to freely peel off and keep him out of Smite range. He's going to try, it feels like. This is a last-ditch effort for Team Dynamic, and there's just not much they're able to do here. They're going to get cleaned up by Dignitas.
Ignite going down from Skarner, and Cutie Pie is going to clean that fight up as I Will Dominate gets the kill on Baron. Dignitas at this point can just steamroll down whatever lane they want.
Unfortunately for Team Dynamic, they are fearful that Dignitas has potentially hit critical mass here. Kog'Maw's got farm. They have the Infinity Edge on Cutie Pie. Crumbs seems to be an unstoppable force in these team fights, and Scar is just a turret of tanky magical damage. There is so much that they can't do against Dignitas. That fight was just a brawl for Dignitas. They rolled in, seemingly went wherever they want, and Team Dynamic had to run away. They actually catch Scar out of position here, and Zion Spartan picks up a nice kill.
Zion able to flash in and take Dignitas out. There's the signature aggressive style from Zion. Sometimes gets him into trouble when he dives into 4 members of Team Dignitas. Fortunately, Scar the only one there, and he was able to pick up the kill. Team Dynamic in the mid lane trying to counter that massive lead that Dignitas has now built. 5,000 gold in their favor. They were down for a large majority of this game too, but they have turned it around in a very dramatic way.
Dignitas so good at stalling, and Team Dynamic forced into action here. They know Dignitas has the Baron buff, but they have a small moment where it will be 4v5. Scar coming up so shortly. Team Dynamic trying to make something happen, but Dignitas is just so strong. They're actually running in 45.
Crumbs going in, popping the ultimate, but he gets stunned by Zion. Zion getting zoned out. Zig is actually going to take out Cutie Pie, but not before Crumbs hits on a rampage. That 1v1 did not work in Zion Spartan's favor. Crumbs continuing his domination, takes out Pixel. That's another double kill. Scar getting in on the action, taking out Zig, and a steamroll victory for Dignitas, continuing to push down. We may see an inhibitor for this one.
They can't deal with Crumbs right now. He is too tanky. He is dealing too much damage. Now, even though they had the Baron buff, winning a 4v5 is completely demoralizing for Team Dynamic right now. We're still only 29 minutes in. This super late game team comp that Dignitas has put together has actually gained a substantial advantage fairly early on. So this is just a lot of trouble for Team Dynamic with the inhibitor going down. Dignitas having complete control. Very well executed game thus far by Dignitas. They withstood Team Dynamic's mid-game press and are really just taking advantage of their farm right now.
Those dull thuds of Crumb's auto attacks signifying TD's potential doom. He is 10, 2, and 5. He does have the Guardian Angel now, so even if Zion had been able to take him out within that 1v1, Crumbs is there once again. Rezzed up, he does have the Counter-Strike set, he gets stunned again. Zig, Pixel are there to back it up, but I Will Dominate pops that Irelia speed boost, and they are out of there in a hurry.
Wasn't quite confident enough to 2v5, and with good reason. Protecting his Baron buff, protecting his Guardian Angel. They're all going back to base on Dignitas right now. Going to be getting rich off of those items they're building. We have a replay actually of that last 4v5 fight by Team Dignitas, and we can just watch Crumb's total domination and ownage of this fight. He has the Guardian Angel before it comes. Scar is not even there. He's not even in base. He sees an opportunity, and he just jumps into all 5 people. Pops his stun down, zoning out Zion Spartan. That's the guy who was supposed to be dueling against. Totally one-sided. Knocks Intended out of the fight. Burns the exhaust. Really, Crumbs took on 3 people. The other 3 took on a couple, and that was fine for Dignitas.
Dignitas looping around. Crumbs really is scary on that, Jax. Well, when you give Jax 10 kills and 5 assists, and he has 189 farm, and he's building into, he has a Hex Trigger, now he's building into a Hextech Gunblade.
Even more lifesteal and spellvamp. That's one of the best items for Jax because he actually does a lot of mixed damage. His auto attack's obviously doing the physical damage, but when he has his Empower, which is actually an auto attack reset, that does magical damage. His Leap Strike does magical damage. His 3-hit alt proc does magic damage, and his stun also does magic. So it's really a mix of damage. The fact that you get lifesteal and spellvamp from a Hextech Gunblade just make him even more unstoppable in those team fights.
And Team Dynamic looks unstoppable. They're almost at a 9,000 gold lead there, dropping tower after tower. TD desperately trying to push these waves out. Zion using his ultimate to clear that wave. Zig using the smoke screen to push them out. A couple poke attempts going out from Team Dynamic, but they can't really do much at this point against this tanky Dignitas lineup.
Also, the Zeke's Herald getting completed by Patoy. That's going to help both Crumbs and I'm a Cutie Pie with their attack speed. Both Kog'Maw and Jax rely so heavily on that stat. They have lost their Baron buff, however. They're taking this slow like we saw last game. Once they get such a monumental advantage, they're really careful not to give away any give away the game with any mistakes. And with how much we have on the line here, the loser of this game getting completely knocked out of the North American regionals, I cannot blame them for playing conservatively.
The single elimination adds so much pressure to this tournament. A lot of these players have been playing double elimination for most of the season, so one best of 3, go big or go home. Dignitas is going to take out another dragon at about 32 minutes, 30 seconds. They're building that lead. Now they are 300 gold away from a 10,000 gold lead. 17 kills to 8, 6 turrets to 4. They did take out that last Baron, and they're just going to rotate around however they like.
Season 2 circuit coming in so importantly. Qualifying points matter a lot. Dignitas is the 3rd seed. Dynamics the 6th, and there's a catch on Pixel. Here comes Dignitas rolling through.
Pixel getting nuked by I'm a Cutie Pie. Paradoxo doing his best to do something, but Crumbs just slaughters him. That explosive cast meant nothing to Team Dignitas. They are walking in. Wards are going down. They are lighting up this Team Dynamic base, which is in shambles, and they are pushing down for the final win. Crumbs going in for one last hurrah. Patoy getting the slowdown collateral damage from Zig onto Crumbs, trying to take him out, but he still has that Guardian Angel. Exhaust going down on a Nintendo. TD trying to push Dignitas out. Will they turn this around? Cutie Pie getting the slowdown. I will dominate in the middle of the fight. Crumbs going in onto Nintendo. He's going to pick up another kill. Cutie Pie taking a couple tower hits, and Dignitas rolling through these Nexus turrets. Zion getting slowed out. Crumbs with a sliver of health, and there he goes onto Zion. Dominate getting the credit for this kill. Pixel is there, drops his ultimate, but all 5 members of Team Dignitas are there. They're gonna roll. Crumbs is legendary. That is game 2. That is the quarterfinals. Dignitas is gonna take it. They're going to the semifinals.
A very happy Dignitas indeed. What a great performance by them in both games. They stuck to their strategy really that entire time. Crumbs especially got that first blood and just carried it through. So many ganks by Owl Dominant. They tried the behind the tower dives in multiple instances, and really once he got rolling in particular, there was nothing Team Dynamic could do to fight back.
Crumbs was 13, 2, and 5, and in that last fight, he had almost no health, but he didn't care. He kept going in. He was tanking tower hits. He was all over the place. He engaged 4v5. He tanked 3 people. No problem. He's Jax, and he has 13 kills.
And now we have Dignitas moving on once again. That's our 3rd team to advance onto the semifinals. And what effect does this necessarily have on the brackets? The very first day, we saw Team Solo Mid advance. We also saw Curse advance. They're going to be up against each other in the 2nd round. Now we have Dignitas just beating Team Dynamic. They're going to play the winners of our CLG Prime versus Team Legion fight that we have coming up next.
We're actually going to jump to a quick replay of that final push with Crumbs jumping in, tanking everything, dealing so much damage.
And really, this was the hit onto Pixel, and they dodge the explosive cast just right. Dial Dominate jumps in for the bear stun. They get the Rune Prison coming down from Scar, and at this point, they actually just start lighting up the base with wards. They don't even need creeps to dodge this tower. I will dominate the tanks one, Crumbs tanks the other, and they are so fearless at this point. They have the built-up confidence of the rest of the game, and this is them just cleaning up. They pop the Nunu ult, they zone out. It's a bit of a back and forth here, but they knew they had it in hand, and Team Dynamic was trying desperately to hold them off. It just didn't work.
Unfortunately for Team Dynamic, Crumbs able to get going. That first blood really told the tale of this game 2, and the difference maker, it's no surprise, it's gotta be Crumbs.
I have to say Crumbs was a standout in that game, and it's really the team conversion. He's the one who got the first blood, so naturally he would be the best person to get fed off of that. It's just a matter of taking the early lead, continually pressing it, and that's the mark of a great player and a great team, when they can hold off all those mid-game pushes, when they can keep their farm intact, and when they know exactly when to get aggressive, dictated by their team comps and their farm level.
And to talk about the brackets one last time, Team Dignitas a 2-0 victory. They are into the semifinals. They are facing off against the winner of CLG Prime versus Team Legion. Jat, what do you think about that other quarterfinal matchup?
It's going to be really tough. We haven't seen much of CLG lately unless you've been paying the super close attention to watch their OGN games. They've been struggling a little bit against some of the teams in Korea. I know they've lost a few show matches to Invictus Gaming. Other than that, it's been very, very interesting experience for them in Korea. They haven't done that well in the OGN Pro League, but I've talked with COG. They say they're very, very practiced from all the games in Korea, and I really can't wait to see them match up against Team Legion.
We'll have to see what CLG is going to be able to do against that aggressive playstyle from Team Legion, but we are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with an interview from the winning team. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back, everybody. This has been such an incredible match. Dignitas taking it 2-0 in this quarterfinals. They're going to the semifinal. And that's it for Jat and I. But we're going to toss it over to Rachel, who's going to talk with Skara about this victory as well as his matchup with Paradoxical.
Hey, everybody. I'm here with Skara, and I know you were all impressed. Skara, I was talking to you guys backstage. You said you have been practicing and training and studying this matchup more than you've been studying for exams.
Yeah, like we spent so much time figuring out picks and bans. We winning the game, we knew everything they would pick, everything they would ban, and every possible situation. And we just played it out exactly like we planned it. Made some mistakes on the way, but we cleaned it out at the end of the clean 2-0 sweep.
Well, things were looking a little shaky there in game 2. What did you do to turn it around?
I think it was just that Oracle's loss. We cleared one war with Oracles when we were up ahead with Udyr, and all we knew is we had to take it to late game. Ryze, Jack's late game will never lose with Nunu. And so we just knew if we just stalled out the game, they couldn't initiate on us and we would just win the game.
Well, you said you didn't even have to show anything, meaning that you have strategies still in your back pocket. How are you feeling about tomorrow?
I'm feeling really good. I want to play the games right now.
Scar's hungry.
All
Scar
right, give
wants
it
to
up
practice.
for him. Give it up for him.
Yo, great job. Congratulations.
You can peace out, man. Go get your lunch.
All right, guys, coming up, 2:30 Pacific, 11:30 Central European Standard Time. The North American Regionals continue live from Seattle with Counterlogic Gaming taking on Team Legion.
Also, we want to give you all some info about the tickets for Season 2 World Playoffs. Are you interested in that?
Yeah? Yeah?
They go on sale at 10 a.m. Pacific time on LeagueOfLegends.com. They're sure to go fast. You gotta get them real quick. So coming up next, stay with us for a look back at Game 2 of yesterday's quarterfinal match between Curse Gaming and TSM.evo. Have fun. We'll see you back here soon. And if you choose to stick around in the audience here, we have some cool stuff for you also.
We got some awesome stuff, guys. Thanks so much. Yeah!
No, I didn't think it would reach me. That's my bad.
see a team fight.